So Shen, are you still on Coconut Beach?
Yes, he is.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Can you describe a typical day there?
During monsoon?
It's been a monsoon lately.
Nothing like being in the UK, right, Shane?
Messi,
I'm gonna kill you, Shane. I'm gonna kill you. You know what?
the
You and I
Keisha
talked on
knows what
the
we're going
Zoom,
through
right?
here.
No, Messi, chill out. We've
Did you
had like a week of rain. I think that Shane has jinxed us. No, I shouldn't say that.
did you guys
Maybe
meet up?
Tyler has, but it's like being no. I mean, I was gonna go there for Boycott and
Yeah, that's
tomorrow,
today.
but I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe we could just like meet up when you come back this way. I don't feel like doing anything. I'm supposed to be at a
Let's
dinner
give
party.
Shane
I'm
a
like,
chance to
you know what?
describe
No, I
his
think I'm just gonna chill
typical
out.
day on Coconut
Well,
Island,
it's
Coconut
It's
Beach.
similar, Cheryl. It's been raining. You don't understand.
Oh yeah, I forgot the monsoon. Yes, that's right.
It's been really bad this week.
They've had a week-long monsoon actually.
You know
And
what,
It's like
Shane?
being in the UK.
We need to have the third or whatever Zoom we have been having before you leave Coconut Beach.
I just hope he gets some sunlight so he can see what it's like on a nice day.
It was sunny this morning. I mean, I was in a
I
Zoom
know
call and I
why.
looked like I had 5 ring lights on my face.
You know what? I know why. Shen is from London. Are you from London?
Is that what there was that big yellow round thing in the sky
Oh
this
my
morning for
goodness,
about
yeah, it was
30 seconds?
glorious.
Was that the sun?
I think it was. I think it
You
was.
know
Someone
what?
was really happy and smiling hard.
I
Hold on, we
think
got
Shen
30
brought
seconds
the
today?
London weather to Coconut Beach, no?
No. The weather in London is beautiful. It's beautiful with blue
Oh,
sky
okay.
and sunshine.
Are you kidding? Oh, I'm
No,
so
Sorry.
I'm serious.
sorry. I'm so
Absolutely
sorry.
serious. Hey, it's okay. It's all good. We've been very chilled, sitting around, chatting, doing some work,
Did you
playing with the
try the
monkeys.
mango sticky rice with coconut milk?
Oh my
Actually,
god.
yes.
Can
Yesterday,
you
yeah, it
believe
was
Oh,
really
this?
good.
Oh my god, that's my favorite thing from the whole world. I'm gonna
Can
scream.
we not talk about Thailand? We are torturing Messi, and she's not
I
in an easy
know.
place to live right now. So let's just
Welcome
talk
to
about something.
FOMO
Let's
news
talk
around
about
the
ice
world.
cream.
okay. One more news. Okay.
Or tech news.
I'm
Yeah, we
ready.
can talk about tech around the world.
Yeah, we
Okay,
are ready. Where's the air horn?
there it is. So the top story at this moment, happy Thursday, November 18th, is from the Wall Street Journal. It says a look at some of the practical issues faced by the ConstitutionDAO, DAO, which is the decentralized autonomous group that put a whole bunch of crypto together to try and buy one of the authentic original copies of the Constitution, which is on auction at Sotheby's. And if they win the auction, such as how to pay, who actually owns the thing, who picks it up, and where to display it, and they're raising the practical issues around if they should win this Sotheby's auction. Jesus, I'm dying over here for the Constitution. How this is going to be interesting to see how a DAO operates. You know, who, yeah, how are the decisions made, and etc. So a group of internet friends decided last week to bid on the last privately held original copy of the U.S. Constitution, a mission with all the hallmarks of the cryptocurrency world they sprang from. Their name, called ConstitutionDAO, is short for the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, just like digital currencies, which have no central organizing authority. Fundraising efforts for the document have taken place on Ethereum network, and monies collected through a platform called Juicebox. ConstitutionDAO advertised its undertaking on Twitter and Discord, where contributors can get to know each other as well as hear live Constitution readings over lo-fi beats. Using blockchain platforms, the friends have raised more than $25 million in a matter of days for their bid Thursday evening at Sotheby's auction for a rare document. So that's going to happen in the next 7-8 hours or so. it is valued at between 15 and 20 million, and they've raised 25. So there's a very good chance they're going to win this thing. So the copy of the Constitution is a real world thing, not a digital asset. The consortium, whose members work at social media companies, have founded apps and buy crypto and NFTs, don't have much experience buying objects at traditional auctions. The Constitution is not a security, says Brian Wagner, one of a few dozen core organizers of the group. We actually had to figure that out, which is hilarious, says Miguel Piedrafita, a 19-year-old organizer who works at a NFT social media company and lives in Spain. Other tricky questions the group has to ponder should it win. How will they pay for it? Who owns the document? Where will it go? Who will pick it up? The group's organizers have been consulting legal, historical, and auction experts to smooth out some of the challenges of crowdfunding with new technology to purchase a centuries-old artifact. Quote, it's a document. A lot of complexity is related to the fact that it's not on a blockchain, which that's a great point.
I wonder if they read it. That'd be a good question too.
Well, the nature of DAOs is that they work very well for blockchain-based scenarios, but for physical-based scenarios, that's where things can get very interesting. There are no returns on investment. Contributors who can remain anonymous won't make a cent if the group wins the auction, and no one person will own the physical copy. Instead, taking an anti-establishment posture that might have been familiar to America's founding fathers as well as crypto enthusiasts, the group agreed to get the document out of millionaires' art collections and back into the hands of people, according to the organizers. Quote, everyone got into it for different reasons, but everyone was really inspired by how we can collectively determine the fate of and govern where this document goes, how it is displayed. And I should mention, as I have before, that both Dr. Francine Hardaway and Jeremiah Oyang, who both visit us very regularly, have participated in this. And how do you deal with a whole group of people who have contributed to such a thing? I think that needs
surely
to be...
there's only one solution to this, right? It has to be given to some sort of establishment that will take care of it, like a museum, or something like that. Because I mean, what other options are there? I mean, you could let the person who has invested the most take care of it, but then
No. You do what they did with the Banksy. You burn it on fire and make an NFT out of it.
Yeah, or you can shred it proportional to how much, if you invested 50% of the total amount, then you get half of it, and then you just shred the thing, but you can't do that. So the only option they've got is they can have ownership, but then they need to donate it to a neutral place, right?
Sotheby's will hold the object for 30 days, giving them time to talk to museums about long-term, short-term storage as they sort out their vote on the document's ultimate destination. Now, that would be kind of funny if they couldn't find... I mean, such a document needs incredible care, and, like a museum is kind of uniquely... it has the unique expertise to do, but it's possible. I could imagine two scenarios: that a museum actually pays to host the document and put it on display, or that museums charge for such things. I could see it going both ways. I honestly don't know, but I have friends who certainly do know, and I'll try and find out. But these folks are certainly going to find out. And if it's the former, meaning the museum is willing to pay to host the document because they can monetize it and get people to come in and pay tickets to see it, then what happens to that money? But in case number two, where no museum will host it for free, and they all want to charge money to host it, who pays that money? And what if they're not willing to pay the money? Then what the hell? This thing ends up in a, at a Hard Rock hotel or something like that, on the wall. So I imagine somebody's willing to become the curator of this thing. But then
there's a third. Sorry.
Hmm?
They'll have to do so at a cost. Like there's got to be a win for the museum here, because it's costly to keep that document and to provide a safe space for it, to ensure that it's not collecting dust. So either way you look at it, they have to find a way to monetize it.
Yes.
Then becomes the haggle on who shares that money? Where does it go? This seems to be, it's going to be a convoluted case.
Got a new idea. Being that this might be the first of many future like endeavors, where we might now start seeing collectives purchasing other physical goods, right, of historic value or whatnot. Or and by the way, I don't think it's a coincidence that this is a political document that brought together these people to do this. I think there will be political fundraisers in a similar way, which is, for example, if something is happening in politics and if a bunch of people can get enough money together, they could influence the course of history by, repeating this kind of feat, then maybe there needs to be a museum of a decentralized museum, so that if you get multiple physical objects, you could make a museum of the objects that themselves are owned by these DAOs, and then the museum itself could be owned by a DAO, and then the museum can charge, and then the museum will pay the ConstitutionDAO owners, so to speak, or stakeholders. The museum collects funds because they'll have a museum full of similar objects, artifacts.
NFTs. It will be a place for official NFT
Right.
versions, tokens of the
Sure.
items that they hold in their collection.
Right. And
That sets a whole new precedent.
right. And then they wouldn't have needed to burn the Banksy. The Banksy could actually live in this museum that is represented by the NFT, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's an idea for you. The museum, the DAO museum. So if anyone wants to do the DAO museum, and of course you could add a metaverse version of it, something tells me that's going to happen, because there's going to be too many of these objects. And I'm still super interested to see if a similar collection crowdfunding is made to offer Donald Trump a payout to not run for the next election.
They'll all be watching this intently, won't they, right? Because if this works, everything will work. I mean, it's not really going to be anything bigger than this. If
Here's
this
my
fucking
point.
works, then it opens the floodgates.
If they were able to get $25 million together in a week to buy the Constitution, how much could they raise together in 6 months?
Let's say 3 months, yeah.
Yeah, to dissuade a candidate from running for presidency.
I've got another question. Does this need to be insured? Who's going to pay for that?
Yeah. Maybe there's some new type of blockchain insurance. There's a whole kinds of new opportunities that open as a result of this.
Ventures, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the next article is Paytm, which is the pride and joy of India, the biggest fintech in India, kind of the poster child for the massive unicorn boom of India of 2021. They're up to close to 40. Looks like they could hit 50 by the end of the year if they really double down. And that would be amazing. Even if at 45, which seems very likely because they're doing about one a week, that is just truly unprecedented. It's just unbelievable. India had an amazing 2021. And Paytm, being the poster child for this whole thing, they just did this massive IPO, raising $2.5 billion in the IPO. So they've now reached a valuation of $15 billion in the IPO. And the next big story is that NVIDIA did its Q3 report with revenue of over $7 billion versus 6.8 expected or estimated. So they handedly beat the market estimates, which means stock will go up. And they grew 50% year over year. Gaming revenue grew $3.2 billion, up 42% over the year. Data center revenue grew $3 billion, up 55% year over year. That is tremendously huge percentage growth on such big numbers. So kudos to NVIDIA for having such a breakthrough year. Although I told you that would happen, that the semiconductors were going to have an incredible year.
Yeah, just today alone, they're up 10.64%. That's amazing.
Yeah. So if you play a little game called Trading's Earnings Season, um, which I've been a fan of doing for many years now. What you do is you read the news every day, kind of like we do here at Tech News Around the World, and then when you know each day who's going to have their quarter earnings reports, you place a little bet right before they announce, how well they did for the quarter. That happens every 3 months. And if you watch them very closely and all the news that they've been in and all the news around the industry they're in, then sometimes if you know how to connect the dots, you can guess pretty accurately on if they're going to have a good quarter or not. And this one was one of the more obvious ones. They're not always obvious, and you don't have to bet, but why not bet on the obvious ones? So, um, yeah, that's part of one of the ways I monetize tech news around the world. I don't know about you. This is not financial advice, but it's a fun game if you know what you're doing. The next one is,
A lucrative one as well.
yeah, it can be very lucrative. Grammarly. Well, by the way, I mean, we're all here giving really interesting, very valuable insights from our different, parts of the world, and it totally helps inform, a lot of these, perspective. We all get enriched perspectives out of this. So, Grammarly, which helps users improve their writing with its AI assistant, raises $200 million at a $13 billion valuation. And I want to know what year did Grammarly start? Grammarly. There it is. Started in 2009. So they've been around for a minute, but 13 billion, they're doing pretty good there. They're
That's good
killing it.
because they
Well,
don't really have a contest. I mean, Hemingway app is one competitor, but they don't really have a stronghold like Grammarly. So they don't have competition
so I'm wondering, I assume they're going to have
as
to
it does in Europe.
oh, sorry, didn't your mic cut out for a second there, Sharon. But
No, you're
I'm wondering, I'm already thinking about Grammarly for Grammarly works in text, right? I mean, you don't need it in a voice to voice conversation. It doesn't really apply to that. But we're going to shift. We are reducing the amount of text that we do as we go from laptops to phones to VR and voice assistants. So those were the big platforms. There was the desktop era where everything was text. I mean, the whole desktop era started exclusively as text, as command lines. There was no graphics. It was pure text. And the evolution over time, if you've been paying attention, is shifting from pure text to pure not text, pure images, pure video, pure audio. So what happens during there's been significant steps and stages in this evolution, which was the desktop era with pure text became graphical during Windows 95, and Apple's operating system started making it a hybrid of text and graphic. The iPhone made it even more graphical, less text, and that's been true during the 7 years of the smartphone era. And now that we enter into the voice assistant and VR era, it's even going to be much, much, significantly much less text and much, much significantly more non-text, visual, audio, what have you. So I'm already trying to imagine what, I don't know. How is this going to play out long term? Is a question I would love to ask the founders. I'm sure they have a very
I'm
compelling
sure
answer.
they can pivot because if you take a look at Apple software, Grammarly can integrate into your text, which also adds the audio. So once you speak into it, Grammarly can then check your text through Apple, at least for sure. It wouldn't take much more for them to shift completely to audio from there and bypass the Apple text or Apple audio equipment just to go straight to audio text. So I think that it'll be easy for them to transition. I don't think that's a concern. I think that's what they're thinking, anyways, in the sense that they've gone from desktop to phone to text, and now audio will probably be the next move.
Tyler, I think they're also going to integrate that into VR because as we're seeing a lot of companies like Apple and now Meta integrate their productivity and even Microsoft, right? Where you're able to bring your virtual keyboard into your virtual environment. and essentially just do word processing. I think if you integrate Grammarly into the whole ecosystem in that, you can pretty much do the same thing that you're doing with your laptop or whatever the case is to fix, errors in your writing or whatever the case is.
Hmm. Okay. So next up is a question and answer Q&A with AWS. That's Amazon Web Services CEO Adam Selipsky on plans for sector-specific products such as for healthcare or telecoms. A shift from Jassie's, which is Amazon CEO, his boss, one-size-fits-all approach. So they're asking, this is a very interesting point, which is the cloud used to be very generic, and it didn't really care if you were a med tech or a fintech or whatever. And now they're starting to make lots of products and services for, like, for example, they're starting to host AI in the cloud. So if you're a startup, you can tap into some kind of machine learning stuff. They're even going to eventually host quantum computing in the cloud. And if you're going to be able to tap into that through APIs and everything else, rather than build your own quantum computer. So there's going to be industry specific products and services in Amazon Cloud as they continue to add endless numbers of features and bells and whistles to Amazon Cloud. And that gets very interesting when you talk about healthcare, because Amazon itself wants to really get into healthcare, like in a huge way. Like they want to own it, like the whole enchilada. Like they're showing up to the buffet and they're taking the whole thing over to their table to eat the whole thing by themselves. So yeah, what is their cloud what's Amazon's cloud gonna look like in terms of healthcare? But I had a friend, who was that? I had a meeting yesterday, and my advice to them was it's because they're doing a med tech, health tech company, and they're just starting now. And my advice was go meet with Google and Amazon and Apple at the highest level that you can to inform them of what you plan to do, ask them how this might fit into their future plans, and more importantly, if you're a startup entrepreneur, and now is the best time in the history of humanity to build a tech startup in terms of fundraising possibilities, because there's more money than there should even be, honestly, going into startups at the moment. And that's why the valuations are insane, absolutely insane. And we read these every day here, as Carl can, as everyone knows. These valuations are just getting ridiculous. Having a unicorn these days is like, yeah, of course you're a unicorn. Like, what else is new? How
I
long
was
did?
bored at the weekends.
Yeah, like I made a unicorn this weekend. What did you do? So the idea, is if you could ask Apple and Google and Amazon, hey, I'm thinking of building a health tech, med tech company, but I want to make sure I build one that is complementary to your roadmap and not directly competitive with your roadmap. Does that sound nice to you? They'll say, oh, absolutely, because there's so many arms on that tree of healthcare, they can't build all of them. And so if you could get... Yes?
Tyler,
Yes?
imagine if a personal health data could be combined with the shopping patterns to identify like the individual at risk for an illness, and preventative measures could be sent via text. Imagine if you have an ecosystem such as Amazon's where all of these healthcare providers are there and they can be rated by the customer.
Mm,
Imagine what that means for insurance.
mm.
Imagine how even rural area seniors and consumers wanting convenience can use the tool and
Whoa,
order healthcare services.
whoa.
This is
It sounds,
huge, dude. This is huge.
Yeah,
sounds like
actually,
you...
that exists. Kaiser's had that since 20. I actually I won an app contest in 2012. We developed that. We tapped into Department of Agriculture data and a bunch of other things. But a lot of the elements you talk about, one of the big challenges that was trying to get through every state level and get the big issue is that it's not the people that tend to be on iOS apps that need the help. It's people that many of them now are on burner phones or contract phones or maybe not even smartphones. So, you've had situations where when you've set up those programs and people have gotten $50 bills because they're getting charged 50 cents per text message. So the logistics of trying to deploy that into the Medicaid population and underprivileged population with high diabetes, high hypertension, that's the bigger challenge. You can't really do that by just building apps. You've got to have other access points.
Well, see, Amazon has those other access points. For example, Alexa, Echo. These are equipments that could be utilized in this sense. I'm seeing a broader use that could then drill down the cost for exactly those segments that we talk about, making it affordable. It would disrupt pharmacy, it would disrupt healthcare as we know it. Using data as a driver, they can potentially do astronomical things in healthcare. Just thinking outside the box here.
Yeah, totally, and that's what should be done. You've got to remove the regulatory capture gateway, toll booths that are set up at every state legislature to where the medical societies control access, control licensing, and also insurance is regulated at state level. So you've got to break up that system in order to be able to deploy that innovation that you're talking about. I totally agree.
But aren't you also worried that I actually raised this issue as well? Aren't you guys worried that the insurance-based healthcare system in the U.S. where the insurance companies can get a hold of this data and how they assess risk and other things and how they actually insure healthcare for people? That might be a big thing, and even worse if hackers get a hold of it, health data. I mean, the blackmailing and other things they could do. I think there are a lot of pitfalls that I can see as well.
Okay, next up, we got someone's got a hot mic. Who's
John, my
that?
dude, you got a hot mic.
Okay, thank you. So the next one is that Spotify back in the news again. My God, they are on a roll lately with all the new products and services
Please say
coming out
it's
of there.
hi-fi. Please say it's hi-fi.
No, it's real-time lyrics to all users globally. After years of ignoring consumer demand for in-app lyrics, particularly in the US, Spotify announced today it will make new lyrics feature available to all global users.
It
And
has. I went on a run today and a song that was in Haitian, like in Creole, was being translated real time for me.
that's
And I
cool.
got the lyrics. It was amazing.
That's super
What's
cool.
amazing is that you're accessing lyrics while running. That is next level exercise.
I think maybe for you, yeah. I don't know why Americans like back in time American movies doesn't have all this subtitles, because here in Chinese we all have the titles. So well, for the local music apps, so we have all these lyrics if you like, and just like you said. So yep, I'm glad they provide them.
It's
We're
worth
slow
noting that
on
they
the
did have
uptake, BB.
this.
We're definitely slow on the uptake here.
Yeah, but I think maybe because in Chinese you have low response, so it's has same pronunciation, but with totally different meanings. So without all those captions, oh, and the Clubhouse had a new feature rolling out today. So if you can update to the newest version, you can have this caption features on. Yeah, you can try that.
Oh, that's super cool.
So Daniel, the CEO, co-founder, took to Twitter to say one of the most requested features on Spotify is lyrics. And as of today, we're making lyrics available on Spotify worldwide. More below, by the way, Moth to a Flame lyrics are amazing. And let's say it plain and simple. It's easier to jam out to your latest favorite song when you know the words. That's why beginning today, Spotify is empowering lyrics globally. Very cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They used to have this. They used to have it via third-party integration, I believe, and then that whole ecosystem
Yes.
collapsed and they banned it. And then, so when they say, by popular demand, they're bringing it back, just better.
But it
And
wasn't as
yeah,
complete when they had a
no.
third party. You would get hit or miss on songs, and then even within one song, you might get maybe one phrase, two phrase, but not the entire hook. It wasn't consistent either.
What was that? 2 years ago now? I'm a little surprised at how long it's taken, to be honest.
Yeah, I
It,
think a
Yeah,
lot of that had
how
to
old
do.
is Spotify? Spotify is 15 years old, right, Tyler?
Yeah, something like
yeah, 2007, yeah, 2006.
But I think
Yeah,
a
I think
huge
it's
part of this was also the copyright. So the lyrics themselves are copywritten. So the fact that Spotify was able to pull this off probably does have a lot to say about the capital investments that they made in this direction. So they either acquired somebody or have a really great licensing deal. Because I remember back in the day when you had websites just wanting to give you lyrics, and some of them would get shut down because Dr. Dre would say, "I'm sorry, you're not allowed to post these lyrics here." So boom.
Hold on,
Uh,
hold on. Are you saying that if you already have the rights to play the music, you have to have separate agreements for the lyrics?
correct.
Is that correct,
I,
Tyler?
Yes,
I believe so.
1,000%.
correct.
Yes,
Yes,
that's a
yes,
thousand
that is
percent
correct.
correct. So, with the company that Jason and I, were at back then around the same time, 2007, 8, 9, we also we had a meeting with Google. This is a good story, and this was before Google tried to kill us. Although maybe what story I'm about to tell you was a very clever way that they were trying to screw us in hindsight, because um, Google back then wanted someone who had all the lyrics, a web page, a website. Back then in 2007, there wasn't. And the websites who did have lyrics were like basically infecting your computer with spam. They were almost like porn sites. And that's how they monetized the lyrics, because they had to pay the licenses to get the lyrics. And so there was basically two companies, one in Canada, Music Match, or I forget what it was called. And I had meetings with both of them. And my God, was it expensive? Like, holy Jesus. They
Yeah,
wanted it.
Music Match. It was Music
Yeah, well, there was another one, though. If you said the name, I would remember. Um,
Shazam.
anyway, it was very, very, very expensive. And it was just like this random deal that they pull the numbers out of their ass. It was like, oh, how many visitors do you have? Okay, here's how much it's going to cost you for the year. I was like, well, we don't really know how many users we're going to have. Okay, well, ballpark, it's going to be about this. It's like,
No, you should be aware that it's not there are three components in this one. Is that you have the actual music piece, you have the lyrics, and you have the notes, the tone sheets. I don't have the English word for it. The how to actually play it,
The
the
sheet
accords of the
music.
guitar.
The sheet music.
Yeah, the sheets to be able to actually play the piece. That's actually one that, so you can't get the lyrics of any known song. You can take it by hearing it and actually, but you can't use the real one if you don't have it licensed. You can't put down the tone notes, the tones of the song, because then you will have a very very angry cease and desist letter from Sony in my case, because I actually did put up the notes for a song that I actually liked, and they did get a cease and desist to exist letter from Sony BMG in Sweden.
so are you suggesting that they maybe didn't get a licensing deal and they're perhaps using something like
not,
voice to text, and
not at
that's the
all.
workaround, maybe?
Not at all. Spotify did a partnership with Music Match. Everybody who does anything with lyrics, you either have to get a license from either Lyric Find or Music Match, and I believe those might be the only two companies. Period.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so
So, but my point is even for a relatively small website, you have like 13 million monthly users. It's all it was like $100,000 a month or something crazy like that. So my point is, I'd be amazed to know how this is working for Spotify. But by the way, if you have
Well, it
lyrics,
says in the article, Tyler, that this deal is with Music Match, and they formerly had a deal with a company called Genius.
well, that was the problem. Was Genius licensed the lyrics from someone else? Genius got in trouble. Genius got a whole bunch of fundraising from Silicon Valley. They tried to do it like a tech startup. They ended up falling apart. That was a really weird company, and that's why Spotify had and then now doesn't have it, because it was a partnership with Genius. Genius fell apart, and it says Pandora works with Lyric Find. Amazon works with both Lyric Find and Music Match. as it says in the bottom of this article. It's exactly right. You have to work with one of those two companies because they kind of have sucked up all of the lyric licenses, and it's a really interesting game. And my point was, going back to that Google meeting, Google didn't want to pay for the licenses for lyrics. So Google just wanted to point to websites that had the lyrics. And Google was trying to entice, float the idea, hey, why don't you license all the lyrics? And then when people look for lyrics, we'll point to you, as long as you aren't, installing malware and viruses on your users' computers who visit your website, then we'll link to you as the best source for all the lyrics, because all the other lyric sites out there, the only way they can figure out how to monetize them is to infect people's computers with malware. Similar to downloading.
And Tyler, where do the original rights actually lie? Do they lie with the songwriter who then has given them to a publishing company? So it's
Of
just
course.
like having to pay BMI and ASCAP or something, or
Of course. So if you've never signed any contracts with anybody as a song creator, then of course, as a, for lack of a better word, virgin or uncontracted creator, then of course you own your lyrics and the music. And those are two separate things, it turns out, right? So when you do when you sign a conventional recording contract with a conventional major record label, they're going to want you. Well, there's a separate little thing called publishing, which is the rights of your music to replicate your music. And you're going to have a publishing deal. Someone's going to pay for the rights to publish your music, and then you're going to sell that. And as a songwriter, that's the bulk of your revenue, not the actual record sales. You actually get much more money from the publishing than you do from the record sales. So then the lyrics, but you don't make that much from the lyrics as the artist selling your lyrics rights, to be honest. So it is a separate contract, it's a separate deal, and those two companies duopolize all of the lyric rights, and then they police everyone who has them. And it's a crazy game. The music biz is a really, really crazy, unstructured, very little metrics. It's not based on data or metrics. It's based on a lot of back alley shady shit from personal experience. So that is what it is.
Well, because it started out that in New York at a building called 1617 Broadway, they had the songwriters in one part of the building and the musicians in another. So the songs weren't like now, written and sung and published by the same people. They
Right.
were written by somebody else put a tune to it, and then somebody else sang it.
Yeah.
And we just carried that.
Yeah, and it was kind of born out of like the jazz era, where the music was the music, and then somebody came along and added melodies and lyrics on top of it, kind of like the Ella Fitzgerald, Cab Calloway era. And then, interestingly, hip hop today has kind of reverted back to that style, where you have the beat maker and then the rapper on top of it. So it's kind of interesting how it kind of came full circle in a sense. So anyway, Spotify with lyrics, great. It's legit now. It's going to be global. It'll be essentially forever. I would love to see how much what the details of that deal was, and I might find out because I'm literally in their building as I speak. So yeah, we'll see. The next one is from Apple's the Apple II movement, hashtag Apple II. Cher Scarlett, a leader of the Apple II movement, is leaving Apple and will withdraw her legal complaint with the labor board after reaching a settlement with Apple. And then she's taken to Twitter to say, Friday's my last day at Apple. That's tomorrow. I'm taking a bit of a time to decide where I'd like to go next. Well, something tells me it's not going to be a big tech company, Cher. And we'll announce when I've made that decision. Okay. I'm very curious to see where you end up next, myself. And then Mark Gurman, who wrote the story, yeah, he tweeted, and a few other people have tweeted. Basically, her friends are tweeting, and let's see where she ends up. Okay, next up is Alibaba misses with Q2 sales of 31.4 billion, which is up 29%, but below the estimates of 32.1 billion estimates. No, that's about they beat the estimates barely, but that's not how you want to do it. You need to significantly beat the market estimates, or your stock will go down. Yeah, and betting, I wouldn't advise playing the Chinese quarter earnings reports unless it's a category like that you have a whole lot of insider data on. The Chinese market is a whole other beast. So, in the next one is a company Nreal, letter N, REAL, says its light mixed reality glasses will launch in the US for $599 on November 30th, just in time for the holidays, in 20 Verizon stores and online on December 2nd. After debuting in Korea last year, Nreal's light mixed reality glasses, that means AR, are finally making their way to the US starting November 30th and then December 2nd. JT, tell us about these Nreal glasses.
I think he's not on stage now.
He's not on stage. Well, that would be very hard for him to do in that case. So, I'm looking at them right now myself, and you can too at the top of the clubhouse room here, right above our heads.
They're really exciting because they're cheaper than the opposing. I forget what the other company was. It was Leap. It was an American company. Google had spent so much money investing in them. They had the light field lens technology similar to the Microsoft HoloLens, but those headsets are in the thousands of dollars range. This one offers it for a few $100s, so at least from that perspective, it's a fraction of the American counterpart. Although there was some kind of shady stuff when this person left that company because they originally worked for that original company, and they took some technology with them. So it'll be interesting to see if there is a lawsuit or some sort of order because there might be some infringing technologies once it goes on sale. So, but yeah, definitely want to try them. They also look kind of like sunglasses. They don't look like, you still kind of look like Geordi from Star Trek, but less so than previous generations. It's really the next generation.
Okay. Next up is from Kandji, Kandji, which offers tools for managing Apple devices remotely, raises $100 million, led by Tiger Global at an $800 million valuation. And Ford partners with Global Foundries to develop chips, but offers few concrete details. The automaker and Global Foundries agreed to potentially produce semiconductors in the United States under a strategic partnership. Ford is looking to get into the semiconductor business. Yes. Anyone who previously depended on chips, like all the car companies, are now thinking, you know what? We should make these chips ourselves because this does not work. We can no longer sell cars. It's killing our business because we're dependent on somebody for making these chips. That was a bad idea. So all the car companies, a whole lot of companies of all types everywhere are all thinking we need to make our own chips. And there's huge business to be had in that. And that is a problem if you have very advanced chips like we have in our, computers and phones. But for the chips inside of cars are actually relatively rather simple stuff. So comparatively.
Some
The
manufacturers, even like Tesla, are shipping their cars without like USB ports and other
Yeah.
kind of simple interfaces because they can't get the chips.
Yep. So the next one is a startup called Stitch, spelled with a Y, Stytch, which is building APIs for passwordless authentication, raises $90 million, and compromised passwords are responsible for some 80% of data breaches, according to some estimations, leading to a mass industry-wide push to come up with an alternative to passwords, like physical keys, for example, like biometrics, for example. with more secure authentication methods. Microsoft, for example, recently bought passwordless logins to all Microsoft accounts with its Edge browser, enabling users to sign in using biometric authentication. And the problem ultimately is that unique passwords are incredibly difficult to remember, meaning that people often reuse the same passwords across personal accounts, etc. And Stitch is betting on building a slew of tools to help developers bring passwordless into their own applications. So Stitch announced it is raising $90 million, and it's the brainchild of former Plaid employees. Plaid was a fintech that also was based on APIs. There's huge business in these API startups, by the way, like Stripe, for example, or Twilio, to help the people build websites. Because every website's gonna need or want something like this, and if you can make it really easy for them, you do the hard work yourself one time, you spend a year or two cracking that nut, and then you can resell that nut a million times to every other app who doesn't want to spend a year cracking that nut. So
This startup was founded last year
mm-hmm.
and reached 1 billion valuation in Series B like this year.
Yep,
So
that's
it's less than a year.
precisely my point.
Crazy.
That's right. We are in the crazy stage of startup land, where if you wanted to make $1 billion right now, there's never been a better or easier time to make $1 billion than right now. You just need a decent idea, and if it's based around fintech or medtech or edtech, and it is based on APIs, you got you have investors ready to throw money at you. And this is genius. Coming up with an alternative to passwords is brilliant. Totally genius. Totally brilliant. So,
Although I suspect there will be some. I always question the feasibility or the technical nature of the security, because if it is behind an API like structure, you're not necessarily privy to the internal workings. So, like one of the interesting previous companies before this, if anyone here has seen the movie Catch Me If You Can, that person Frank Abagnale Jr. is also involved in or in this field, and he also had a startup a few years ago that did a similar thing, and they sold their technology to the Department of Defense. And the idea of two-step, and now some people are talking about three-step authentication. I think we're going to enter a new era of perhaps even not only needing multiple keys, as in passwords, but actual physical keys and multiple devices to authenticate these systems.
hold on one second here. Hold on. Okay. Boom. All right. So the next one is Lacework, which offers automated cloud security tools for containers and more. Raises 1.3 billion, led by Tiger Global at an 8 billion valuation. The next one, Topology, which makes software for designing and manufacturing 3D printed parts. Making software for designing 3D parts and making software for manufacturing 3D printed parts raises 65 million. And OpenAI makes the API for GPT-3 generally available in supported countries. That's big news. So GPT-3 is a very, very powerful, very impressively powerful. You give it some input, and it gives you in very intelligent outputs. You say, write me a story about three little bears when they visited Disneyland, and it will do that. Just like that. Just like I just said it. You can tell it either verbally or by text. Tell me a story about the three little bears that went to Disneyland, and it will write multiple paragraphs of the three little bears and their journey to Disneyland with incredible, wildly impressive language and details and knowledge about bears and Disneyland and how those two things would play together and whatnot. There's people who have built cute little kind of apps, for lack of a better word. They've written some kind of code that takes it another step further, where you can ask GPT-3 for generate images of three bears at Disneyland, and it will give you dozens of examples of images it creates in real time of bears playing at Disneyland, or anything else you can ever imagine. Any thought or idea that comes to your head, you tell GPT-3 and it will generate it. And it's true, it's borderline magical. And they've taken it one step further recently, and I know Carl will remember, about 2 or 3 months ago, they launched something new. What was the name of it? Where you can now write code using GPT-3. So you can say, hey, write me some code based on the following vision. I want to make a website. And on this website, I want to see a stick figure of a little man at the bottom of the website. Please do that now. And it writes all the code to do that for you. And they say, great, I want to see a rock at the top of the browser or at the top of the page. And then I want the rock to fall straight down. And if the rock hits the bottom of the page, I want it to start at the top of the page in a new random location. And then I want to give the guy a gun, and so he can shoot up. And if he shoots up and hits the rock, it'll break the rock. And if the rock falls down and hits him, he'll die. Verbally just describing that game, I think you can imagine it. But by the way, so can GPT-3. And it codes the entire game, and it makes an actual video game for you verbally with verbal input. Just as I
That's
just did.
GPT-3. Yeah, that's a GPT-3 or kind of derivative technology called Codex.
Yes, it's called Codex.
And it is very impressive. Although in terms of security, some studies have shown that the code it generates, unsurprisingly, is not as secure as it could be. Not shocking to me. But the advantage there is, hey, you have an idea, you know how to do basic coding. Hey, maybe you haven't been keeping up with syntax. Here, this machine can actually help you be more creative. So everyone thought it was actually going to be taking away jobs from coders, but it's actually making coding for all humans more efficient. So it's kind of one of those things where we saw the potential of automation. We had our fears, but then the actual implementation and the use cases are slightly different than the dystopian kind of images that we thought were happening or going to happen.
Okay. Next up is
JT's back if you want to ask him regarding
J-
the XR glasses.
yes, JT. There was a headline from Nreal that says that their light mixed reality glasses will launch in the U.S. for $600 on November 30th in 20 Verizon stores and online December 2nd.
What? Are you serious? That's a game changer. They're normally overseas,
Go Korea.
in the Asian markets over there, and they've talked about wanting to expand with their new product launch, and I'm very surprised it came into the U.S. because now Spectacles, which is their main competitor right now, Ray-Ban Stories is not even a competitor at the moment. Snapchat now has a huge competitor, and I've tried the Unreal, at least the first iteration in 2019 at AWE, and that is something different. I was able to actually watch video content inside the headset, but then also I was able to actually use the mixed reality component as well, where you're able to actually overlay digital content in your surroundings. So that is huge because now they're also integrating 2D apps into so they have like their own um, UI sort of interface built in already. And if you go check it out, it's like really impressive. The design is like sleek, it's very modern, it's very organized. So holy damn, this is like huge news.
But
I gotta read into this.
wasn't there a lawsuit a few years ago because the creator of that company took some technology with him when he left? Are you familiar with that, GT?
I'm not too familiar with the legal
He was
aspects of
from
it, but there
Samsung,
was
wasn't he?
something with what's it called, Magic Leap, the company, and they were going into the legal battle around that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there's
Sorry, it was
definitely something
magically.
pending.
Yeah, yeah.
Back
Yeah, but
on
compared to the other headsets are like thousands of dollars, right? So this is like kind of like what Oculus did, bringing it down. So I think the competition is good. How did they weigh a lot when you tried them, JT?
No, they were just like regular sunglasses. I could like literally wear them for hours like probably 6 hours, probably not the whole day. But the battery life, obviously, plays a huge component to it. That definitely has to improve over time. I believe mine was tethered to some other external device, but the new ones might just be standalone. I'm not too sure. I have to look into that. I've been definitely getting some emails from the company around it, trying their product and just getting general marketing things from them. But I'll definitely look into it and share some news.
Yeah, because in my experience, the headsets have been actually too heavy for most women to use. So I assisted with a kinesiology class where we tried to use mixed reality, and the HoloLens, the first generation of the headset, was so heavy that the female students who were using the headsets for something like maybe close to an hour ended up reporting neck pain. So a huge factor of these kinds of technologies is their accessibility to everyone. And I hate to say this, but the dev teams originally were just a bunch of dudes, so they didn't really take that into consideration. And I think this headset is much smaller, and as you mentioned, the tethered nature of it also makes it much lighter because I think they offload a lot of the electronics or the heavyweight components so that it's not necessarily on your head, on your neck, because for some people, especially if you've ever been in a whiplash accident, any sort of additional weight can be quite tiring.
I agree. We were actually discussing this just yesterday, me and my friend, and the weight issue is real. It causes not only neck pain, but headache, temporal pain, and earache. In my like, I can't hold it on. It hurts a lot. And then he was discussing a lot of this new technology that's coming up. I wish he was here right now. It's very exciting news.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why the HTC Vive Flow is very popular, because of the lightweight, in terms of, being able to just wear it all day, um, uh, compared to the Oculus headset, which it's not a good comparison because obviously the Oculus Quest headset could do more in terms of computing power and just like gaming and everything. But nevertheless, it's somewhere, it's a point where, consumers would love these headsets, these bulky headsets to move towards, because nobody wants to wear. I can't even wear my Oculus headset for more than 30 minutes without getting some headaches or
Yeah,
just back
headaches.
pain
Mm-hmm.
and all that.
Okay. So, jumping back to the topic of OpenAI for a second, because basically OpenAI had a long wait list for developers who wanted to play with it, and now basically the wait list was very long, and I think it became a bit of a problem for them to manage. So essentially, they've now opened it up, so there's no longer a wait list, and in countries where it's legal to do so, people will now have access to GPT-3, so that we can expect to see a huge boom of GPT-3 based apps. So
Nice.
next up is the Apple announces self-repair, a program starting next year that will publish repair manuals, let customers buy parts and tools. And if their polishing cloth is any indication, those might be some expensive parts and tools. The tech
Didn't we
giant.
discuss this yesterday,
We
Tyler?
did. We did. Next up.
The morning crew here, I think I hadn't heard of it, and I recall from last night, Tyler had like both you and I had this kind of funny realization that this is going to be an expensive, kind of like
Yeah.
those wheels for the Mac Pro, the $500 wheel. This is going to be like $100 screwdriver. It's going to be $100 repair kit, hardcover. They're going to go all out, and people will suck it up and to tell you the truth, I might buy it too, just to have it as like a meme thing in my office. So that'll be interesting.
I'm surprised there's not a DoorDash Instacart for repairing your iPhone in your house. But there no doubt there soon will be when this gets underway. So the next one is there's a whole bunch of fundraisings. Instagram says it's shutting down its standalone mobile messaging app called Threads at the end of the year, December 31st. And a group of shareholders who own less than 1% of Activision Blizzard calls for the CEO and two of its longest serving board members to resign, which they're not going to do. That's a nice idea. That was a nice try. That's not how it works. So um, we'll see. I guess there will be a follow up story when those shareholders sell their shares and say, you know, the next one: Starbucks and Amazon partner to launch. Oh, we heard about this. If those of you with really good memories will remember, we talked about how Starbucks and Amazon were trying to partner on a physical part, like location, which is like half Starbucks, half Amazon supermarket. You guys remember this?
Yes.
And they got caught up in the nitty gritty details of what happens if the customer goes to both sides and who, obviously they're going to do all kinds of interesting new technology, like, pay with your palm and, having your facial recognition and of the items and everything in the store and everything else. They're both based in Seattle. Their headquarters are very near each other. So, and culturally, I mean, the leaders of the companies know each other very, very well. So this is a massive Seattle kind of partnership where they're both based. But the first store is going to be in Manhattan, and it's going to use Amazon's Just Walk Out technology. So CNBC is reporting as follows that Starbucks is opening a pickup cafe in Midtown Manhattan with Amazon that uses the retail giant's cashierless technology. So it's a Starbucks without a cashier.
This will be interesting to see because there's a psychological play with the entire Starbucks experience, having your name called out, being able to choose and select all of that. It's really psychological. It'll be interesting to see who gravitates to the cashierless and who stays with the old model.
And just as a joke, whenever I go to Starbucks, I always make sure to give them some ridiculous name like Copernicus or Galileo, and then I call it out, and it's extra funny because everyone looks around and they're like, "Wait, Copernicus is here? What?"
I have to try that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so there's a photo in the article that shows what they expect it to look like. It looks like a real photo, but except for the ridiculous postures of the humans in the photos, that's the only indication that it's not a real photo. But it looks incredibly real, and it says that it's the latest in Starbucks' strategy to update its store footprint to meet customers' changing habits. So now you can basically grocery shop while the barista's making your drink, and you can walk out with the groceries. The first Starbucks pickup with Amazon Go opens Thursday in New York City on 59th Street between Park and Lexington Avenues, and two more are planned over the next year.
But isn't that what Target's doing now? Like we go shopping at Target, they have a
I think
Starbucks in there. You grab your
I,
stuff.
I think
Yes, yeah.
Tyler, your favorite Roppongi Starbucks to Taya is bookstore with supermarket with Starbucks.
my favorite one in Roppongi is the one in Tokyo Midtown Tower at the bottom.
Oh,
It's a Starbucks
not the one
Reserved.
at the Roppongi Hills?
The one at Roppongi Hills in Tsutsaya. Yes, that is my favorite. You're right. What about that one?
That one has a bookstore to Taya plus
Yes,
a supermarket at the side.
there's a supermarket further inside.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just right there.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
you're
just
right.
there.
That one is a really interesting one because that's a Starbucks in the middle, like really in the center of a bookstore. So everyone's sitting down reading books, and it's a really gorgeous design of a Starbucks. In fact, it's a Starbucks Reserve, which is kind of their
And you can
higher.
even
Yeah,
you can even see its terrace in winter because there's heater
yeah. Oh, yeah.
outside.
So,
You.
so that's
Yeah.
kind of like we have at the LSU bookstore. It's the huge bookstore, and then there's a Starbucks. It's very beautiful. You can just sit there and read, or you could shop, and that sounds just like that.
But the problem with a like a coffee shop inside a bookstore is that you smell the food and the drinks, you know. And sometimes I'm not sure, it's not a good experience if you're actually focusing on reading some of the books and you smell those food.
Well,
That's actually
there it
what I look
smells
forward
wonderful. I
to.
mean, the coffee
Yeah.
and smell of caramel is amazing, and the fresh baked cookies smells great in there.
Yeah,
I
that's
actually look forward to the smell and the read. It's something nostalgic about that.
Yeah. And you can
Mm.
always like read the book and then you go to the cafe and order something and drink the coffee and read at the same time. And that's wonderful.
Especially
yeah.
this time of the year, everything is going to smell like Christmas. That's how I describe it. It's like, Christmas.
Here's my best tip.
Yeah.
It's called this. I've made this is my own special drink. In many countries in December, Starbucks has eggnog milk, and if you don't know what eggnog is, you got to try it. And if you do know what eggnog is, then you have to get an eggnog chai latte, which I call a chegnog, and it's
Oh, I love
incredible.
chai latte.
Yes, if you're a chai latte drinker, change the milk for eggnog and have a chegnog, and it will change your life. And you're very welcome. That's
Wow. Never
that's my
tried that. I'm gonna try that.
I have a question. Is this going
1600
to
calories
mess with the
later.
whole like Barnes and Noble Starbucks thing? Because like we kind of already have the whole sitting down and reading a book and drinking Starbucks. So that's just my question.
Mhm. Well, in this article, it shows that customers scan an in-store code from the Amazon app to enter the store. And there's two parts to the store. There's the Starbucks part, which is kind of normal, and then if you want to enter the Amazon part of the store, you open the Amazon app on your phone. You'll get a barcode. You then scan the barcode on a barcode scanner, and then these glass doors partitions open, and then you walk through the glass opening automated glass doors, and then you go into the Amazon store. You take whatever you want, and you walk out.
So it's kind of like the Whole Foods when you scan your barcode for the Prime, Amazon Prime, and then you have multiple deals. Only difference is the location, like they're separating it. At Whole Foods, everything is mixed up, and you pick your items, and based on the scanning, um, it gives you the code and certain discounts.
So this
Mm-hmm.
And
is more of
there's
a physical VIP section? Like you physically can't access that area without the special code?
Correct.
and Tyler, there is a comment from Katerina saying that there are studies that show that people when they are exposed to coffee smell, they tend to be relaxed and hang out longer and shop more.
Yes.
Yes, and also activate their hunger center so they buy more food.
Yes.
But Tyler, chai latte or chai tea is not chai. So you need to come to India for the real chai. And Starbucks is
Yes,
It's
mis-selling
not
chai.
exactly.
shy.
Chai latte is not the real deal at all.
Yes, we can't. You can't say the word chai without Indians getting very. Uh,
Exactly. I can make some mean cup of tea, the chai, the real one with milk that you cook for a long time and with cardamom in it and that smell. Oof.
yes, I've
Also,
had.
pumpkin spice latte is not real pumpkin. Just FYI.
So if you combine the chai tea from India with the eggnog, could we have like some real amazing concoction on that?
Whoa, that would be a hardcore
That's
cultural.
an idea.
Yeah.
That'd be a hard cultural combination.
Well, the
You know,
thing
as
is
it
the way
went,
you cook it, slow cook it and slow roll boil it and you add the sugar in it, it develops kind of a sugary sticky stuff in the chai itself and that I think
Caramelizes.
caramelizes and develop that pink rosy color.
But that's what
So
they
it
call
all
a
sounds really good.
karak
But I
tea.
was,
Karak tea, right?
That's a delicacy, a very, you have to temper it very gently and cook it in a way that you don't over boil or overheat the milk. I mean, it's a whole science and art.
Is
okay.
Yeah,
that
there's
the
another
milk?
comment.
Is that
Another
the
comment
milk? Oh, sorry.
from Dr. Janelle saying that Kroger in the Midwest mostly have Starbucks in them as well. You
Oh,
shop with your
yes.
coffee in your
I thought
hand.
Yeah.
you guys knew. Kroger over here, my Kroger have the whole Starbucks thing situation going on where you go and do the grocery and then you can grab a cup of coffee. They also have those cute little seating area, and that's like fun.
Yeah.
My question is if the future is cashier, like if you don't have cashiers there and you have to have an app in order to enter, how does that happen in a group? When you're with a family or if you're out with a bunch of friends, does everybody have to be on the same page? You have to assume that you're a Starbucks app user or an Amazon member in order to enter the store?
That's a very good question. I don't
Wouldn't
know.
it be like Apple Pay? Like you have your Apple card, you shared, the whole family shared it. It's on your phone. Everyone can access.
That's what I'm wondering. What if everyone has to have? I think it was just this market is assuming everybody has access to their own identified account before coming in, or you're a part of somebody else's account. Or what if you, oh my gosh, imagine that your husband gets to the counter and he can't remember his password, so he has to call his mom or his wife and ask for the password so he can enter the Amazon
But
to pick
you
up
don't
his
need the
stuff.
password. You just
No,
scan
like
your
when,
phone.
like if you don't have it on your phone, yeah, like we all do, like you have to like either reset it or someone, there's just always problems.
I think they're
Hi,
I don't know.
more
I
aiming
was just trying to
towards.
picture the actual day-to-day thing of going in there with a group of people, or
I
the other
thought
thing
that
of
was
like
a
the
It's
great
social
more about
side.
tip.
like convenient if you have it on your phone already, and I think that's what they're aiming for, to have this card or whatever on your phone and use it from there.
An
yeah, hi,
interesting
Mom.
fact.
I forgot my password. Can you let me know my password, Mom? Thanks.
Well, if anyone has kids, like when they're like 14, 15 or something, they'll do that because they don't think it's important to have an Amazon thing on their phone yet. But every once in a while, if I was like if he wanted to go pick up something, I don't know. I just imagine like, I'm sure they're incorporating some group way of everyone being on the same page, even though there's always one person, usually within a family system, that has the account. They signed up for it, the account is under them, and then they can share that, like a Netflix or whoever. But there's always one person who knows the password and the sign in.
My guess is they'll probably offer a hybrid option. We just had the first Amazon Fresh mini supermarket open. I went to the grand opening the other day, and you can enter using your iPhone app, or they did offer if you didn't have. So for people that didn't have phones, so they probably will choose in high density areas like New York. It probably will be totally cashierless and just your app. But if they're smart, they'll offer both types of options. And it was a very nice space, nice display of groceries in a mini Amazon Fresh type of format. So that's probably, if they're smart, they'll go with the hybrid option.
But
I
Tyler, I
just
have
want
some
to.
interesting facts for you.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, no, Monica.
So Tyler, one in four transactions on Starbucks happens over a mobile. But interestingly, they were actually ahead of Apple Pay at one time in terms of mobile transactions all over the US. Apple Pay recently took over. I think they're probably number two or number three. But in terms of payment volume, they're just behind Venmo. And you know how much Venmo is doing in the US. So Starbucks, in terms of being able to milk their mobile app, is doing, and no pun intended, is doing the best job ever of actually earning a lot of revenue from just the mobile payments piece, about 10% of their total revenue. So very
Mm,
interesting stuff.
mm.
That is interesting.
I
Yeah,
just read
Irene.
the article. It says, the question you guys said that you forgot the password. That actually, if you have the accounts, so you scan your Palm or the Amazon app. If you don't have it, you can use your credit card and you scan your Palm as well, and it will give you an account. So that's some way to force you to create an Amazon account.
Okay.
So you can enter it by the credit card.
Alrighty, let's get
I
back
know,
into the
yeah.
news here. So the next one is that Twitter and the S&P Dow Jones launched the S&P 500 Twitter Sentiment Index using Twitter's API to analyze bearish and bullish tweets in real time. And that's a crazy concept for traders, and it's particularly for like Howard Linson and the traders who use the dollar sign as a sort of hashtag for stocks, which Twitter does as well. This could get quite interesting. this
I
whole
met some
topic.
hedge
What
fund.
does that mean? That means there will be, sorry, I apologize. Would there be the stock reading and the charts live on Twitter?
Well, let me read it. It says Twitter is teaming up with the S&P Dow Jones indices to give investors a broader view of opinions about companies they may be considering investing in. The S&P 500 Twitter Sentiment Index launched on Thursday to measure public opinion of companies in the S&P 500 stock market index. Through a Twitter API, the S&P analyzes both bearish and bullish tweets in real time to score the level of positive sentiment surrounding each company. Conversations and opinions about companies posted on the social media have had an increasingly significant impact on markets, as we saw in the meme stock frenzy earlier this year, which saw stock prices surge due to individual investors sharing information on social media platforms such as Reddit. Quote,
Yeah, exactly.
social media is impacting the way information is being conveyed to investors, says Peter Rothman, S&P Dow Jones Indices Global Head of Innovation and Strategy, said in a statement that factor-based indices are a popular strategy for passive investors, so we're excited to work with Twitter to bring this unique tilt to the S&P 500. The Twitter index will measure the sentiment performance of companies in the S&P 500 by analyzing tweets that mention the company's $ cash tag, as I said before reading the article. And I believe we have to credit Howard Lindzen with that innovation, although Howard would be the first to tell us who was the real creator of that. But I'm pretty sure it was him.
Yeah, but the
And
problem with that is, as we saw in Reddit, yeah, it moved, for example, Dogecoin in a great way, but it can also move the wrong thing at the wrong time. Like if you had enough sentiments around a horrible stock, that could move that stock artificially and cause a lot of damage moving forward. I wonder how they'll analyze the sentiments to ensure that they're, proper and not being guided by someone.
But that's
It's
exactly what
absolutely
they're
going to be
getting in. No,
subject to
that's exactly what they
manipulation.
are getting into is the new. So this is where things are going, and this is this reviews I've heard of the stock market and how these meme stocks are getting as examples, are getting moved. It's an emotion economy. They're not tied to the performance of any of these companies, the underlying companies. And so that it's a new paradigm, which is the emotion economy. And it may be driven by, wanting to screw the man, but it's also just driven by hype. And so they're trying to tap into that and capture that. And I think that's fascinating because it is a new area. And as you note, it's not tied to the performance of the company.
I met a couple of head information and listening, and they said Twitter was their number one source of information beyond all of the Bloomberg terminals and high speed, private expensive information services. Like Twitter was their go-to source. So interesting that this is being done.
It's interesting that they're using sentiment analysis in this fashion. Usually, sentiment analysis happens post hoc after the thing is done, so people can figure out if they had positive or negative opinions about something. But in this way, doing it in real time, that requires a ton of resources, honestly, and a new way to handle sentiment analysis. Besides, this is a huge thing where the accuracy is quite low, and there's a lot of technological hurdles to overcome, especially when someone says, this stock is the bomb. You don't know if he's talking about it negatively or positively in this sense, and that's where sentiment analysis comes in, and it becomes quite a convoluted thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because uh, honestly, I don't think either Standard and Poor's index have thought this well through. I know a lot of people are driven by emotions when they're investing these days, but this thing might backfire at them quite in a very negative
Exactly.
way.
Totally
But the
agree. I just think the idea of them even considering it is interesting to get to that emotion sentiment analysis. But yeah, agree with the accuracy issues.
but the S&P 500 index itself, if they're only using the index, is a lot less manipulable than individual like meme stocks. But by the way, so for people who want to know the traditional way that we still, most professional people still do, if you want to have a whether bearish or bullish on the S&P 500, is to look at the put call ratio, okay, because that usually is a fairly decent indicator of where sentiment is. So there's been a sentiment indicator that's been used for for decades, and it just basically measures the ratio of puts and calls, and you can get a sense of the
Yeah,
sentiment on the S&P from that.
that's a very tried and true indicator for people who actually have skin in the game. What Twitter's going to bring
Correct.
is a
That one
whole bunch
has
of people
has
who have no skin in the game. Yeah,
I was
exactly
gonna.
that part is actually driven by demand, and the other one is driven by emotions,
yeah.
and emotions can be manipulated in any way. And now non shareholders or even potential shareholders can define how the stock is going to go up or down, and or confuse the system by saying things that are actually positive but mean negative things, or say negative things and they mean positive things, or put a picture that has no meaning. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I would be very very interested in tracking how this plays out.
I'd love to see
Um,
a
My
version of
I
this
would
for
like to say,
cryptocurrencies too. That would be fascinating to see
but
sentiment on
but this
crypto, the crazy market that is crypto.
Mhm.
the stock market has been highly emotional anyways for a long, long time. I mean, I did courses in stock market stuff and for day trading and so on and so forth. All advice was always try not to be so emotional, and so on and so forth. And everything what stock market advisors and people do is mostly emotional, and people react mostly emotional to some type of scare. I mean, that's traditionally known, so I don't really understand the difference. It just adds another more
I
data
can
points to
I
screen
think
for.
it's the accessibility. It's on Twitter now where you have the average person who doesn't trade, isn't aware, will have access to this and make decisions on that. So that becomes more nefarious because it impacts people who don't have it to lose.
Well,
like a
no, they have, because now with opening, when they opened up partial shares, they opened up basically buying and having influence on the stock market and their skin in for every single person. Just because you don't have a few billions in, um, the percentage of your personal income or your personal money, the percentage is for sure just as high, if not higher, from people just that buy partial shares than hedge fund people or people that have billions but have like a millions in Tesla stock, let's say.
I'm not
A
talking
person
about
that has partial stocks maybe only has a savings of, let's say, $5,000 and have like almost everything in the Tesla stock. So I don't see the difference of the skin in the game, based on a personalized ratio. Based.
you still
I
mentioned
think
people who actually
we're
have skin
missing
in the game.
we're missing the big boat though. I think we're missing the boat, guys. Like we just had basically 2 years of stop go economies, lots of emotional stuff, lots of misinformation, lots of booms, spikes, like so many different variables and situations. And it's been publicly, there's been a huge amount of data, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whether all these areas are in there. Human beings are doing behaviors, and the result is there's digital footprints, right? So we've just exploded a bunch of digital footprints, and that just happened. And then now we get to go look at it, and then once we go to go look at it, things like Twitter and whatnot, you just run some AI through there, and then basically say, hey, this stock went up or down or whatever, and then you could backtrack and see, well, if this happens and this happens and this happens, and a lot of weird stuff is probably going to come up when you do this, because when the algorithms run all those data sets, they'll start to identify patterns, and then we can actually match those patterns up in the wave cycles, 1 2 3, in different areas, see if the conditions are the same, and kind of come up with a whole slew of new investment algorithms.
We got to get
I think
through
that's
the
what.
time here. Okay, so just real quick here, a company called H5n1, a social network for healthcare professionals, raises 100 million, kind of a LinkedIn for healthcare professionals. And Google will begin paying agency France Press, the AFP, which is kind of like the Reuters of Europe, for content in Europe as part of a 5-year partnership, the first with a news agency. And where do these other ones go? TikTok releases research that they commissioned into the harmful challenges on TikTok, which often go viral, and adds a safety center section about such content. And BBC, as usual, is the only notable publication writing about it, about these challenges on TikTok. And shame on you, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, for yet again refusing to recognize the real problem in social media, especially with kids and the people dying. There's people dying on social media, on one app in particular, as mentioned in this article. And it's TikTok, and yet you guys do refuse to cover it. So the next one is that Spotify, who was already in the news once today, expands their podcast subscriptions globally with 20 price points ranging from 50 cents per podcast to $150 per podcast. They give you the option as the podcast creator to set the price per episode anywhere from 50 cents to $150, and will let the creators, more importantly, download the subscribers' contact information, like their email addresses. And that right there is amazing. That is fantastic. Let's hope the creator economy, especially the metaverse, adopts that sort of mentality. That would be amazing. Cheryl, is that all of them? Provides tools for that. I believe it is.
They rolled this out already.
Yes,
Yes.
that's all.
Apple just rolled that fast.
Spotify?
That's incredible. Or wait, Spotify. Wait, what was that Apple? You said Spotify rolled this out?
Yes.
It's already
Wow,
rolled
wow.
out, but the newest is rolling out worldwide. Originally, not worldwide. So
Yeah.
it's
That's the way to do it. Like, let people pick it and say, "Hey, pick your price," and then let us resell your stuff. Like, I remember you mentioned that earlier. I want to talk to that attorney that kind of thought both sides of that token. Man, that's a brain right there who put that clause in there. But this is the right way to do it. I think. Hopefully this will fix the creator economy. Let them say, "Hey, here's what I'm happy if I get this, right?" And then if they upsell it more, then they're reselling. That's interesting. It definitely sounds like a metaverse move on the part of Spotify. So
But as a subscriber, I hope they provide. I can choose if I like the creator to mail to me or not to mail me, because they have the contact provided to the creators. But I hope, just like the subscriptions, you can turn it off if you don't like to get those emails or notifications.
Alrighty.
There's
Here's.
Tyler,
one that
Tyler,
says
did you put the Spotify link up? I'm looking for it.
I just tweeted it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
there's
do
one
that.
there's one article on a Canadian teenager was arrested for stealing 36.5 million in crypto from a US victim using SIM swapping. So the largest reported single person crypto theft.
That's a very big SIM swap heist. Yeah.
Yep.
He's a teenager at that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Hey, did they have what was the markup? If you can post it for 25 cents or a dollar or 150, is there a standard percentage markup that they're going to resell for, or do you also set the sales price of the
the
reseller,
the
commission that you
creator
want?
picks their price. Spotify will not take any commission for the first 2 years, and they'll start taking a 5% commission after the third year.
That's interesting. But
Yeah,
then it goes back to that. Then that number could fluctuate. Basically, that 5% could be adjusted. It's not set in stone. Like, this is what it is,
it
right?
is. It's
Because
set
that's
in
that's where
stone. You're for
and they won't raise
2020,
it.
for 2022 and 2023, Spotify will take no money out of your audience who subscribe and purchase your podcasts. In 2024, they will take a 5% commission out of your podcast sales.
What about afterwards? Like, that 5%, will it be like, can they just adjust it after that? That's the big question for in the
Well,
creator
Apple's
space is
taking 20% now, just for comparison.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's that adjustability, right? It's that,
Well, they're
hey,
not
it'd be
saying
nice if they said,
they're going to adjust it. Their announcement is they're going to have a fixed 5% rate after 2024.
yeah, but in 25, 26, 27, it's that uncertainty that creators have of like, what's it going to be, right?
Well,
It'd be nice if they could
not
I think
just,
in
really.
the face
Yeah,
of what's
to be
out there,
clear,
you really don't have an uncertainty, right? That's the best
If
deal
they're
that's
letting
out
you,
there, so
if
you're
they're
not
letting
concerned.
you,
Even if they raised it by 15%, it would still be undercutting what Apple's offering. So I
correct.
think it's a
And
great deal.
if they're letting you have the contact details of all of your subscribers, it doesn't really matter. You're free to move your audience wherever you want to go.
oh, that's true. That's interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
somebody brought this up earlier. I think it was Sharon or Elle a few days ago. Is the market moves, right? The world moves, technology moves, the market moves. So they're not going to make a 10-year commitment here. I mean, it, it's going to depend on what's going on then. So they are making a great commitment, and especially if you can move your audience.
Now
Yeah,
we do.
getting your audience data, getting all your contact information, their emails, whatever that's actually a very that's a big move, man. Most of them, like whether it's Amazon, all the other, they hide that data, right?
Yeah,
So showing that and saying, hey, if you want to use our platform with the people you build, the audience you build, it's a 5% fee, 20% fee, whatever it is. But if you don't, here's your audience. That's a fair exchange.
fantastic
That's
deal.
how they compete with the Apple podcast. I think
Yeah,
that's the way to, yeah, attract the
it's a
creators to move to that platform.
Yeah, as
yes.
a creator, I mean, Apple has a fixed platform too that you have to sort of align with before you can get your podcast even approved. You have easier access with Spotify. They're guaranteeing you 2 years of, you know, profit without any undercut. And then you board on for 5%. Apple couldn't beat that if they tried. So it's a no-brainer in this sense. It's a great plan. And then moving forward, even 5 years out, if they were to increase that percentile, it still would be the better deal. So the creator has no hesitations on this score.
I've got 25 tweets to share in 25 minutes. Tyler, I'm so sorry. I'm not seeing anything on Spotify. Sorry to interrupt. I'm not seeing anything that you shared. Is it just
Okay.
me or is it not showing up?
Okay, let me find it for you, and I'll tweet it right now. It's Spotify podcast. Subscription. Here it is. It's a TechCrunch article, and now I'm tweeting it to the Tech News Twitter account. There it goes.
Thank you so much.
Sure. The next one is we got 25 tweets, like this one from Saudamini, that a new holographic camera can see the unseen with high precision. Northwestern University researchers have invented a new high-resolution camera that can see the unseen, including around corners and through walls. And the next one is that a father and son roll out a national Uber for laundry. As a teenager, he co-founded the business that grew out of the piles of laundry his mother did for her family of 7, and now they've got Uber for laundry. You call them, they pick it up, and they bring it back, I guess. Simple as that. Makes sense, though, because they can take it to a professional laundry place, which most, and they can do incredibly high volume without ever paying anything. They're just making a cute little app for people to notify that they need to have their laundry picked up. And researchers find a way to filter coronavirus particles out of the air. The discovery could improve the safety of surge wards in the NHS, which can often lack the ability to change the air with high frequency. And now they can suck the virus out of the air. That's great. Tech-savvy teachers pick edtech startups over return to school. Students might enthusiastically be heading back to school for in-person classes, but at least some of their teachers are choosing to continue with virtual classes. And next is from Bibi, from South China Morning Post, that China cryptocurrency news websites suspended as Beijing crackdown continues. 2 popular Chinese cryptocurrency news outlets have become inaccessible as Beijing continues to crack down.
on the trading and mining of virtual assets. And Instagram will now let you shake your phone to report a problem called the Rage Shake. Rage Shake is now available on iOS and Android in the US. You report a problem by shaking your phone like a tantruming child. That seems wildly appropriate. And Joe Williams,
until the child gets a hold of it and starts shaking it vigorously, and cops show up, right?
and then Joe Williams sends in this one about Asia's virtual influencers offer metaverse glimpse. Sporting neon hair and flawless skin, Bangkok Naughty Boo is one of the new generation of influencers in Asia, promising to stay young forever, on trend, and ever influential. And I just tweeted that out, so you can get a look at this Asia's newest virtual influencer, which they are correct in saying is a pre-glimpse to the metaverse, which will be full of virtual beings of all kinds that are powered by GPT-3 and GPT-4 that will be largely indistinguishable from humans. And May sends in the next one from Forbes that a company called Gemini raises $400 million to protect the metaverse from Facebook. And guess who's behind this company? It's the Winklevoss twins, who claimed, that Mark Zuckerberg stole Facebook from them. So now they're raising $400 million to fight him in the metaverse.
That's
After
too funny. Hold on. We got what? We got another movie. I guess this is the sequel, right? But
part two, yeah.
part two.
Metamedia Part 2, yeah.
Did they successfully raise 400 million, or are they raising 400 million?
Well, they got like 400 million out of their settlement with Facebook. So maybe they're just doubling down with the money they got from Facebook to fight him in the metaverse after years of paying.
Don't need all of it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Dude, if they make headway with that and start to actually make some headway or get some brains together and have a counter, right? This would be very interesting, and get some popcorn out and watch.
yeah, that could be a fun fight to watch for sure. The next one, the United States plans diplomatic boycott of the China 2022 Winter Olympics. Biden administration may not send official delegation to Beijing in 2022 in protest of human rights abuses. Told you. I told you. And that could get really interesting with how they decide to respond. They might respond by kicking out American companies out of China. And then shit gets real. And the next one is from our friend Kieran from Financial Times. The headline says, Genetic Engineering. Why some fear the next pandemic could be lab made. U.S. government funding for scientific research that splices deadly viruses to make them more transmissible is under scrutiny amid safety concerns. As I've been warning you, going back to the earliest episodes of Tech News Around the World, and precisely why I moved to Thailand, fully off the grid. This is why, and are we not seeing this more and more in the news lately? This time in Financial Times. It says,
I mean, they already did it, right? They did it, or they tried to do it. I remember DARPA was doing like a gene drive on rats in New Zealand, or the documentary I had watched, they'd gone in and they were able to even sterilize them, right? So like, are they using CRISPR and all these different techniques? And yeah, that's pretty scary, man. And anybody could do it in their house now too.
well, this article talks about Yoshihiro Kawaoka, who was the first scientist to show that the genetic makeup of avian flu could be manipulated to spread among animals. And they tell all kinds of interesting stories about, why this is such a concern and why governments are starting to wake up to the reality of this concern. And it's now out in the open. I mean, this was a well-kept secret until relatively recently. And the problem is now that this is getting a lot of attention, now bad guys are getting bad ideas.
But that's in the U.S. we actually have some sense of transparency, but this is occurring in all the governments
And they have a lot less transparent rules than we do. I mean, what's and if this is just coming out about our government, what's going on everywhere else?
Well, it also says in this article, late one Saturday evening in 2013, a researcher at a high security influencer research institute in Madison, Wisconsin, did the one thing scientists working there feared the most: handling a needle loaded with potentially deadly flu virus. The person accidentally pricked their finger. Realizing the danger, the scientists immediately sprayed their finger with disinfectant and ran it underwater. They were then advised to squeeze the wound in an attempt to draw out the infected blood. The researcher has not been identified, but their story is detailed in contemporary laboratory safety reports, which have been seen by the Financial Times. They were told to put on new gloves, take a shower, and isolate. Meanwhile, their family was told to move to a hotel for a week so the scientists could quarantine alone at home. The flu strain involved was not a regular seasonal virus. The contents of the syringe had been artificially created in the Wisconsin laboratory by splicing together a mutated version of H5n1 avian flu with a more regular human version, and it was not the first accident to occur in the lab. Just a week earlier, reports seen by the Financial Times show a scientist had spilled liquid containing the H5n1 virus. H5n1 is known to be incredibly dangerous. 60% of humans who become infected with it die.
Yes, that's
60%.
what. Why would you mess with that? Wouldn't we want to get rid of that thing than try to inject it and mess with it?
Well, they're trying to see what
No, you
happens.
want to research it. You
They
do
want to
want
know
to
what happens
research
when
it.
it
And
becomes
these sort
airborne.
of accidents happen more often than not in laboratories. There are protocols against them to sort of mitigate them, but accidents are going to happen. The point is, these diseases have to be developed so that they can see what can potentially happen, how they can evolve, and then how to address them if they were to evolve naturally.
Yeah, but
So it
look at the
says,
process. It just
hang on,
wait.
hold on,
They got plucked, left,
hang
and
on.
then went home.
Hang on. H5n1 is known to be incredibly dangerous. 60% die. The only positive is that it is unable to normally spread easily between humans. However, the flu virus created in the Wisconsin lab replicated quickly enough to spread between ferrets via respiratory droplets, just like COVID-19, in the air. So, if the same were true for humans, the research team warned it could trigger a global pandemic. And the article goes on and on about how this, by the way, while it's happening at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, which is by no means a prestigious, lab, nor is Canada University of Alberta, where David Evans replicated horsepox, which is nearly identical to smallpox, which would also have about a 50% mortality rate of an airborne pathogen. So you have very real reasons for concern because the cost of doing genetic engineering is dropping every week. And it's soon the reason that governments are starting to freak out, and the reason they absolutely should be freaking out, is because the experts are telling them that these tools will soon be in the hands of, high school students. And that's where shit will hit the fan very literally. Because just like when computers got in the hands of high schools, then you had computer viruses, and you're going to have very real viruses, and you're going to have um, nobody knows what to do. I've had very weekend long conversations with the world's smartest people on this issue, and Nobel Prize winners, and they say we have no idea what that guaranteed this is going to happen, and yet we have no real concrete
Hey
plan to
Tyler, have
deal
you
with
have
it.
you seen the smallpox story? I DM'd you today
Oh, that's right,
on
you did.
another
Yeah.
terrifying note. I don't know
Yes.
if you
Is
want to share
John
that.
free to comment? John Madison? He's on stage, but I think he's busy, I guess.
Where? Just So
No,
it,
one no, quick thing. I no, mean, it doesn't
yeah.
refute what you've said, Tyler, but I just want to clarify that UW-Madison is one of the top public institutions in the US. So
Okay.
it's a land grant university, which
Yeah.
means that part of its mission is to do research on behalf of the people. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a private Ivy League institution, different historical context,
Yeah.
but it has a strong research pen. I
Is it
just wanted
level?
to
Is it a
clarify that
level
piece.
4 lab or level 3? Do we know?
Oh, I'm not familiar with that particular
Okay.
program, but it's considered a research one. Carnegie, like the
Yep.
highest level of research output
Okay.
when you
John?
look at the research outputs
I
that
want
universities have.
before we turn it to John, let's double down. Evan, I found your article, Evan, which is that the FBI launches a probe after smallpox virals were found at the Merck facility. Smallpox was eradicated with a successful mass vaccination campaign after it killed an estimated 300 million people, just a few. And we managed to eradicate it with the help of vaccines. However, it's recently been found in a place where it was not known to exist. It was previously only thought to exist in 2 labs on the planet, one at the CDC in Atlanta, another in a lab in Russia. And now it's been found, strangely, at the Merck facility in Philadelphia while cleaning out a freezer. Wait. Can I address one little question? The you said that the process the person followed, they had this H1N1, and they basically got pricked, and they said run some blood out and then go home and quarantine, right? Yeah. Like it wasn't like this is something that kills 60% of people, and then as soon as it it could have infected the person, um, it was just go home and quarantine. I mean, that could have, if they did get sick and if it was airborne, that could have sparked another pandemic. I mean, shouldn't there be more? I mean, I would imagine they would have better controls. Were they going to quarantine us? Maybe if we have it and not, and for 14 days, shouldn't there be like extremely stringent quarantine procedures if you get pricked with something that might have a 60% mortality rate?
Well, quarantine in principle does work. The whole problem is that self-reporting or self-regulation, people don't necessarily act rationally when they're the ones infected with the virus or any virus. Take, for example, any zombie movie, the people always behave silly, right? So even for us to trust that somebody will follow the quarantine protocols and just go and self-isolate, I think that's a risk and concerning to me as a person who works in a BSL lab. I find that to be kind of strange. I certainly would not do that. I would want to go above and beyond and make sure, beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there's any possibility of infection. So when you're dealing with these more dangerous pathogens, I don't know how you can be so cavalier.
Yeah, that's very weird, right? I mean, that's what I was thinking. I was like, prick, like everything should lock down, alarms should go off in the movie and be like, like this thing could kill people. Like, you've been pricked. Sorry, dude. You got to like chill out there for a while. We got to do some crazy research, make sure this is not going to get out in the world. To just be like, oh, you got pricked. This thing may kill 60%. Just go home and quarantine. That's kind
And
of it's kind of weird.
maybe not store measles in a freezer in the back of the lab somewhere.
Okay, I've got 10 minutes and 10 articles, so we got to chug on along here. It says from Katarina, a single molecule within a specific plant used by Native Americans can treat what? What is it? What is it, Katarina? It can treat both pain and diarrhea. The extracts of a certain plant, long used by Native Americans as a topical um, analgesics, activate the potassium channel. The compound provides pain relief and prevents diarrhea. Oh, from University of California, Irvine-led study. Okay, the next one is from Dr. Fran, that Morgan Stanley thinks that the metaverse is a $8 trillion opportunity. Okay, they put a number on it. BB sends in this one from Mainichi Japan, which is a newspaper in Japan, that JR, which is the big rail company, opens an automated Japan bullet train test in the early hours of November 17th. JR East revealed an automated driving test for the E7 series Shinkansen bullet train. That's the classic white and blue bullet train from Japan. Autonomous now. That's cool. And then a Japanese robot cafe shows how avatars can foster human connection from the New York Times. Thank you to Dan Malaire for that one. And then Eric IO sends in this one from Wired, that the oil producing nation is learning what happens after a country fills its roads with electric vehicles. That can only be Norway. because Norway is covered in electric vehicles and it's an oil-producing country. And Evan sends in this one that Disney shows its cards in pursuit of sports betting dollars. Now the major leagues are getting on board with gambling. The family-friendly Hollywood giant Disney is eyeing that revenue and may start with something to do with ESPN. And Monica sends in this one from India that the Prime Minister Modi says it's important that all democratic nations work together on cryptocurrency, which I actually agree with that. That's how you make something happen, is if all the countries work together to make some kind of cryptocurrency, although that's where the US and the dollar come into play, and that would get very strange very quickly. And there's your Evans one about the FBI. Okay, the next one's from Dr. Fran. Why Time is launching a new newsletter about the metaverse. Okay. And Dr. Fran also sends in this one that the metaverse is too important to get wrong, so it needs to be open. Open Meta is an organized principle for decentralized governance, driving us towards an open metaverse owned by the community. Okay, good luck with that. Didn't work out so well for the web. And speaking of the metaverse, Evan found this one, that Facebook's new $1 billion idea is clothing in the metaverse, selling lots of virtual clothes. And Evan also found this one for you, Cheryl, about a Singapore scientist create lab-grown shrimp for shrimp dumplings. Dumplings that are filled with lab-grown shrimp, Cheryl.
Made
Yeah, can't you see they
made in
eat
Are they
Singapore.
genetically modified?
lab grown with cells? My God. And can't you see the way they cook it is they mince it such that you don't even know it exists.
If it's
And then there's
actually
strong
shrimp?
flavor. Yeah. So
Yeah,
food
actually,
security, come on.
Cheryl, it's a very clean way of growing protein because the water in the ocean is polluted. So I
Oh.
hope when they say lab grown, it's not some GMO because shrimp
No,
around
it's
six.
actually there's a video. You should check out the video. It's pretty cool. But Cheryl, come on, made in Singapore too. You got to get on board.
It's
I
okay for the
hate
backup,
heaven.
for the backup. It's just like toilet paper backup.
Oh my God, give me back my life.
Support your country.
Shrimp are
Support them.
bottom feeders. You know, they eat all the worst stuff
They
on the
eat all
bottom.
the trash. That's right.
Come on, this is pure, nice, beautiful shrimp.
Clean
Yeah,
shrimp.
expensive food tech.
I
It's
agree with
okay.
Canada.
I'm in Japan. I
But
eat the real stuff.
Yeah, but
it's
with the oceans getting polluted and you don't with the plastics and all that, it might be safer to eat the lab grown because then there's no harmful chemicals. It's just pure lab grown
Yeah,
cells.
you need your immune system to be exposed to some of that filth so that you can survive.
not,
Okay,
actually when it's
Tyler, as I
lab
said, the
grown.
rest
Yeah.
of the world can enjoy the lab-grown meat or whatever. Let the Japanese have their real seafood. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, when it says lab grown, I think it's not doing it justice to its marketing. It should be vertically farmed because a shrimp grow in around 3 months to be a size that you could actually have them, serve in a
Yeah,
dish.
there are no shrimp involved, right? It's cells that are cultured. So there's actually, yeah, the video is cool. It shows you what it looks like. It looks like a science experiment.
Got it. Yeah. No, the one that I'm getting involved is actually vertically farmed. It's a real shrimp because it
That's what Cheryl
actually,
wants.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
Uh,
we got to leave
She
it
wants
there.
to know.
Yeah,
yeah,
I gotta jump out, but we will meet again. And is there a room after this one?
I think so. I think I've seen something.
Is it no? The next room is the tech news room tomorrow. Okay. So we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you everybody once again for another tech news around the world. Have a wonderful
Thanks,